there was a sign that you got before you were gonna take your own life. What do you think brought upon that sign, and how many signs happen around us like day to day that we don't even recognize because we're so caught up in everything?
Okay, so what brought upon the instance that you're talking about was just that. It was something that I had planned. Now, my ego mind and all of our ego minds don't have access to our life plan. Our higher mind does, but the ego mind. So therefore, I was unaware of it until it actually happened. I didn't know it was coming. I should say my human mind didn't know it was coming, but my higher mind is like, get ready, because this is what you mapped out. So everything happens in perfect order. Everything happens in perfect timing. Everything. We're just oblivious to it. Now, we're oblivious to all of these things until we awaken ourselves. So we are most likely having the universe show us opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, but because our attention is so upon our own ego mind identity that it never gets registered within the screen of our consciousness, yet it's happening over and over and over again. So everything is designed and everything is happening for our evolution. Every single moment of the totality of existence is happening for our evolution. It's just that our attention is so upon our creation, which is our ego mind identity and all its misprogramming, that we miss the forest for the trees, because it's happening perpetually and eternally. Once we're awake, it becomes obvious.
RJ, so the next kind of step in your journey was you actually met somebody who played an integral role in your awakening. Is this something that, obviously it's something that you had planned out, right? And do we plan people to come into our life to help us with our evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, absolutely. Okay, so when we think of maybe like our immediate family, right? And no one knows how to push our buttons like our family, right? Okay, they're also there for our evolution. Everything and everyone is there for our evolution. But because there's so much friction and discord, we don't realize what's really happening. It's through the friction and discord, right, that the evolutionary tension is actually taking place. And through the evolutionary tension, that's how we actually are forced to go within and then transcend the circumstances of within our own ego mind and how we're relating to our environment, our so-called outer environment, which includes those around us. So yes, even the family members that cause us our great disharmony are actually great teachers. So and I think what you're probably more alluding to, but that's still the truth. What you might be more alluding to is maybe highly advanced beings or teachers that are here to help our evolution. Absolutely. There are always a small handful of what I would term authentic masters here, and they normally stand out, and they'll speak to you. You'll be drawn to them. You'll gravitate towards their work. And Yogananda, was just incarnate. Master Yogananda. Look at the impact that Master Yogananda is still having on people. So we're going to be drawn to one, if not or multiple masters. But just know that there's always a couple of them incarnate right now. And if someone speaks to you deeply on this deep level, that's resonance, and that's you knowing that this is for you. So there's always a couple of them there, but everyone is our teacher. And I really mean that. Everyone is our teacher. Some might be as annoying as hell, but every single one of them is a teacher.
RJ, with regards to making space in your life for people to come into it, does there need to be a space for somebody that needs to come into our life to be able to come into it?
Well, the more identified we are with the past, the more the future is the past. Right. So if we desire the allowance of these new experiences, these new data points, the more that you can let go of the identification with the story, which is your past, which we then keep throwing right in front of us and stepping into it. And therefore, the future is the past. I mean, it actually really is. So the less that we can identify, and how do we do that? Pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future. And then start over. Now that kind of wipes the slate clean, and it will tell the universe that you are allowing new experiences to show up within the screen of your consciousness. Excuse me. And these experiences will also represent experiences with people. New people will come into your life. So the key is to be open-minded, and to be open-minded, the best way to do that is to not carry around the story of the identification with the past. And then therefore we can experience our data points along the timeline of our life and allow these experiences and these people into our life, because we have an open mind, which shows the universe that we're ready for that data point.
Excellent. So if you want to fulfill the highest potential of, what this life could be, you need to make sure that, you get out of the ego mind, right? And get into connectivity with who and what you really are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's as simple as mastering being present. It's the single most important thing from my perspective that everyone would get the most out of in terms of their quality of life, is to master being present. And the simplest, fastest way is just pretend you just arrived here. No past, no future. And start from there.
Obviously, you needed to meet this person. You needed that experience to happen to know that it was very serious. And the last thing he told you before you left, RJ, was you don't understand. You are the wisest of men. You must wake up or you will never make it in this life. So how stifled is our potential based on all the things that we're stuck in on a day-to-day basis? Because RJ, you were RJ the whole time, but you could not see it because you were so bogged down by everything that was going on.
And when he said that to me, the last thing I felt like was the wisest of men. That's the last thing I felt like. Now that's important to look at. Now, the last thing I felt was the truth about those things, about those statements, because I was so disconnected from myself, from that aspect of myself. All my attention was on body consciousness, my emotions, my thoughts, identifying with the experiences that had happened, the traumatizing events. So all of my focus and attention was on those things. And therefore, when our focus and attention is on those things, that's the only thing we can experience. And meanwhile, all the love, all the wisdom, all the peace, all the power is completely and utterly unrealized, and therefore can't be tangibly felt. And so when we reach the point of when we're actually contemplating taking our own life, that tells us how far away we are from who and what we really are. And this is universal, because we're so occupied. Our attention has been on our character and our story and body consciousness for so much and for so long that eventually it'll just become overwhelming, which is why all ego mind identities are designed to fail, which is why the caterpillar has to destroy itself to become the butterfly. So, and you could think of that destruction as the liberation or the destruction of the ego mind identity. And then we can actually feel the depth of our peace, of our love, of our spaciousness. And when we're truly disconnected is when we're having the hardest time in our life. And it happens to everyone, and myself included. It happens to everyone. It's part of the process. The key is to know that there's more to you. To feel and to know, I know there's more to me than this. I know I can get past this. And if you're able to tangibly let that start to spread, your actions and the things that you start to do will be reflective of this thing that's starting to open and flower, which is you, which is the self. And so we will have circumstances, we'll meet people, there'll be certain events in our life that will almost make it impossible not to step out of an aspect of that character so we can experience more of who and what we really are. And I had reached, and many of us do, I had reached sort of that culmination point where any more of just obsession with the ego mind identity just became too much for the self. And so something had to change. And that was that data point within my life.